Hello everybody, my name is Lightning Underpants, and my underpants have been struck by lightning, and today I wanted to do something a little bit different. I wanted to talk about something that I've been thinking about for quite a while. There'll be footage of some kind in the background. I'll make sure to have some Subway Surfers for y'all. But I wanted to talk about something that I've noticed and that I've been guilty of myself, definitely, and that is talking about Warframe and just glazing it to the point of ignoring any flaws. I think that a lot of us are a little bit too defensive of this game. Maybe because I think that it's...
Have you ever had a dream?
It feels almost like a little underground indie title that we love and want to see recognized for its greatness. And so a lot of criticism gets met with sort of excuses and goalpost shifting and et cetera, et cetera. And to be clear, I love Warframe. Right, I've been playing it for almost a decade. It's been a huge part of my life. I've met a bunch of people through it. I sing its praises at every opportunity. I recommend it to people all the time. But it isn't perfect. And I think that it does more harm to pretend that it is. You know, the other day, I was thinking about how Warframe does have quite a lot of FOMO systems in it to sort of encourage habit forming. It still does it in a much more like consumer or player friendly way than to pretty much any other game, but it's still there, and I think it's important to acknowledge that. Things like standing limits, purchase limits, sorties, netro cells, EDA, Nightwave, like the whole season. I know that you can recover the challenges. That was a nice feature that they added, but still the seasons they're gone. You can't. There's this really cool wireframe ephemera. I'll pull up a picture of it that I wanted because I found out about it way later, and I just can't get it anymore. It may come back one day, but there's no guarantee. And, of course, there's the rotation-gated content, things like eidolons, which only occur on the night cycle, bounties, which can cycle around, and arguably the most egregious of all of them is the circuit weapons, where you have to wait literal multiple months if you miss it by a day. And there are, of course, other problems. The new player experience still needs some work. I know that they're working on it, but it's still not all the way there. There's very little guidance, and it's a surprisingly difficult thing to solve. The simulacrum, this is a personal gripe of mine, it really does need a lot of work. There's so many more things that could be done to it. Namely, the level cap needs to be raised a lot. The number of enemies spawned at once should be raised quite a fair bit. It always defaulting the sorting back to name instead of scanned is quite annoying. The battle groups was a nice change. It was a nice feature that they added. And of course, one much bigger change for the simulacrum that I personally think should be added would be allowing you to test out mods and weapons that you don't have. It's a simulation. That's the whole point. That it's not real, but whatever. The UI could be fixed up in a lot of places. It is generally quite slick, but I think there are definitely still some improvements that could be made, especially with the speed of transitions in a lot of spots. But one of my biggest complaints is the lack of transparency with the effects. Whether something is additive or multiplicative or flat, what triggers on certain types of sources, when and look at what time do the condition overload type effects check the statuses. There's a fucking spreadsheet that people maintain of whether or not condition overload is multiplicative with different weapons. I'll throw up a little picture of it on screen. It's ridiculous that we have to resort to this. And I don't want to hear that it's just how it kind of has to be with the level of complexity of this game, because it's not true. Deep Rock Galactic Survivors has a very nice system where they show additive versus multiplicative differently, and they give you a full breakdown of where the stats from your weapons are coming from, which is very nice. Tiny Rogues has a really neat system where it will show off the effects if you hold shift, I believe, and it will show off like the more full explanations for what causes what. And I think the best example of this system actually working is Path of Acra, which explains everything incredibly well, with little descriptors on the very bottom for reminders of certain things, as well as full readouts for what all of the different effects are. On top of that, there is a full log that you can check. So every single action in the game, taken by you and enemies, and all of the triggers from that, and so it's like you hit someone one time and then 700 things happen with that, have a full write out in the log of how much damage it dealt and where that damage came from, plus 100,000 from stupid perk 1, minus 90,000 from enemy defense, stuff like that, as well as the damage type, the targets, the source, the kind of attack, all of it. It's phenomenal, and you can just scroll through it, you can search through it. It's amazing. I love it. Even in the game that I'm working on, I have a system that I've made with 3 different types of modifiers, with flat, multiplicative, and additive, where the flat is simply just added on. All of the additive sources are a percent buff that are added together and then multiplied, and each of the multiplicative sources multiply on independently. It really is possible to make systems this complicated that do actually make sense and are not nearly as opaque as Warframes are. Everything that you need to know for these games, you can just see from what the game tells you. Whereas Warframe, you need to go to the wiki, you need to go to the sheets, you need to just learn these things over time. There's not even anything in the game that encourages you to try to stack different multipliers together, right? To diversify your builds and get extra crit damage and extra crit chance and extra elemental damage and base damage and everything like that. And with there being so many sources of base damage, it's very easy for new players to fall into the, oh well, more damage is more good. So, oh yeah, Valkyrie's giving me plus 300% melee damage, and then this mod's giving me another 150% base damage. So that's like 1,000 times damage or something. And it's like, that's not how it works, but there's nothing in the game that tells them that's not how it works. So yeah, that's about it. It's a little bit of a different video, a little bit of a shorter video today, so I may actually get it out at some point. But yeah, thank you all very much for watching. Be nice to each other, and fuck off.